All right, we're going to review how to simplify radicals. And so here we have the square root of 180. Sometimes you hear radical or square root. They're used interchangeably. One of the ways that I do this is by the factor tree. If you have learned how to find the highest perfect square, then you can do it that way. But if you don't know what I'm talking about, that's okay. So what we're going to do is we need any two numbers that multiply to 180. Now if a number ends in a 0, it's a pretty good indicator that 10 goes into it. So 10 times 18 is going to get me 180. What we're trying to do is we're trying to find all prime numbers. Remember, a prime number is a number that only 1 times itself can go into that number. So for example, it would be like 1 times 10. But 10 is not prime because 2 times 5 also goes into 10. So I'm going to break 10 down even more and say 2 times 5. Now 2 is a prime number, and so is 5. So we're going to circle all of our prime numbers. So I don't care about 10 anymore. I only care about 2 and 5. Now what about 18? What times what is going to give me 18? Well, we have a 3 times 6. 3 is a prime number, 6 is not, because 2 times 3 gets me 6 as well. So what we're saying is that 180 can be broken down to be 2 times 5 times 3 times 2 times 3. Now any order doesn't matter. This will multiply to get you 180. So we're looking for groups of 2. We're looking for pairs. Because it's a square root, square, think of 2, a length times a width would give me that. So 2 dimensions that you're going to be multiplying to get the area. We're looking for groups of 2. So I have one pair of 2's here. Okay, so I have one group. If you have a group of 2, you're going to take that and take it outside of the house. You need a friend. In order to leave the house, you need a friend to go outside. So you're in a sketchy neighborhood, so you two have to come outside together. Here's another group of 2. In order to leave the house, you need to come outside as well. And so when I pull these guys outside, they're going to be multiplied together. So I pulled one group of 2 outside. I pulled one group of 3 outside. And then what do I have left over? Only looking at prime numbers. So not the 6, not the 18, not the 10. I have a 5 left over. Well, you don't have a friend, so you got to stay home, play Call of Duty by yourself. So you stay in the house. That's like your annoying little brother that you really just don't want to take with you. So you have to stay inside. Finally, we would say 2 times 3 is 6, and this 5 is left underneath the radical. So the square root of 180 is 6 radical 5. In the same way with number 2, we want to break this down as best we can. And so what are 2 numbers that multiply to 315? Now if you have a calculator, that would be really beneficial. But if you did not, 5 goes into this 62 times. So 62 times 5 is 315. No, it isn't. It is not. It is not at all. Hey, Mr. Lawrence, what's 315 divided by 5? Maybe it is 62. I don't know. 63, thanks. All right, good thing I can edit the crap out of this. So the next one, if you don't have a calculator, you can go ahead and use this. We're trying to figure out what 2 numbers go into 315. And so if I'm multiplying, it ends in a 5, then that means 5 definitely goes into it. So 315 divided by 5 is going to be 63. Now I know there's a negative here. We're going to talk about that at the very end. 5 is a prime number. Some people might think, oh, 63, yeah, it's prime, cool. But it isn't. So what times what is 63? And this is going to be 7 times 9. So 7 times 9 is 63. Now, 7 is a prime number. 9 breaks down to be 3 times 3. So 3 times 3 is 9. And now I have no more numbers that can be broken down. So 5 times 7 times 3 times 3 will get me back to that 315. So again, we're looking for groups of 2. So I have a group here. I have 2 3s that I'm going to take outside the house. I have no more groups of 2 that I can pull out. So that means what's going to be left over on the inside of the radical is going to be a 5 and a 7. Now those 2 terms need to be multiplied together. So what about this negative now? this negative, I can't have a negative under a radical. So what happens is when I see a negative under a radical, that's going to get me an imaginary number. So I need to take that outside of the radical, and we're going to use the variable, the letter I, to represent, hey, this is an imaginary number because I can't have a negative under the radical. Because remember, the square root is something like the square root of 25 is like saying 5 times 5 gets me 25. Well, I can't take the square root of a negative 25. There are no two numbers that are exactly the same that can multiply to negative 25. So for example, you might be thinking, yeah, what about negative 5? Duh. Well, negative 5 times negative 5 gets you a positive 25. So if we have a negative under the radical, we need to take that negative out and replace this with an I. So you got to take your I out. Literally, do it. So finally, we have 3I times the square root of 5 times 7, which is 35. So sometimes you'll have negatives, sometimes you'll have positives. The only difference is that with a negative, you have to take out the I